Personal task execution. In this block, we are going to see the options in the execution section. We are going to see the options we didn't see when we learned about the personal tasks. First of all, we have these options, clone enable and clone disable. This is useful when a task has several inlets, when the task receives several current flows. So we can choose between those two. So clone enable, each time the flow arrives at the task, a new task will be created in the performer's workflow. If the performer is the same, a new task will appear in the workflow. If the performer is different, a task will appear in the workflow of the new performer. Clone disable. The task will work like this as long as the performer doesn't change in the new flow threads. The date of the arrival will be the one of the new flow thread. However, if a new flow thread arrives and the performer has changed, the task will behave as clone enable. A new personal task will be created. If a new flow thread arrives and the personal task must be sent again to the first performer, a different task will be created because the performer will be different from the current one. Another important option in this execution section is the joint execution. This refers to the current flow outlet. If a task is sent to several people and we have selected joint execution, means that all the participants must finish their task so the current flow can leave the personal task. If we select joint execution no, the first participant that finishes the task creates a current flow in the task outlet. As the other participants finish their task, new current flows will be created. Example of behavior in execution. This is an example of a task sent to 3 different appointed performers, or to a role. If the process has a DA gateway, to send a task to the English translator, Chinese translator, Arabic translator, it won't matter if it is joined or not, as the current flows only arrive once. But if, for example, we change this for a role, for example, translators, if the task for the role is configured as joint execution, the flow threads will be similar to the first diagram, with the advantage that if there are more translators in the role, in the future, the diagram will need modification. If the task for the role is configured as joint execution no, and the task for the editor is clone enabled, the editor will receive a task in the workflow every time a translator finishes their task. Therefore, if the task reaches the role and it has joint execution, it will do the same as if we had a DA and a CA gateway. That is to say that it won't be sent to the editor until the 3 of them finish it. What happens if the translator's role task hasn't got a joint execution? In this case, it will be the same as if we had a CL gateway, since the editor will receive a task in the workflow every time a translator finishes their task. For this to happen, the editor task has to be clone enabled. What happens if we change it to clone disable? Then the editor will receive one task in the workflow, which will be updated every time a new flow thread arrives. As we can see here. Let's go to the application now. So let's go to My Tasks. Start process and then choose participants. And if we go to General Settings, before anything, okay, let's see the configuration of TP1 and TP2. So here we have clone enable, create a new task with each flow arrival, joint execution, yes. So we're going to leave this one as it is. In fact, we're going to change it, joint execution. Yeah, I'm going to leave it like this. And if I go to personal task 2, I'm going to leave it as clone enabled, but here in joint execution, I'm going to select no. I'm going to change this one. So we're going to see a couple of examples, okay, to see the differences between clone enable and disable and joint and not joint execution. So in here, I'm going to choose employee AP1, and in accounts family, I'm going to add 3 accounts: IT consulting, Aura portal, and supermarket. Save, and before starting the process, I'm going to go to general settings to change the appointed performer. So if I go to personal task 1, panel, I want general. And employee, save and exit. And then personal task 2, panel, general as well. And I'm going to choose the accounts family element. Save and exit. And save and exit. Now if I go here, see task recipients, I can see Anna Hill AP1, that is the one we chose here. And if I go here to externals, I can see that the task is being sent to these 3, okay? Supermarket, Aura portal, and IT consulting, the representatives. And let's start the process. Sorry, I need to choose this, employee and external, and let's start the process. Let's go to reports now. And here we can see that the task has been sent to Anna Hill and the external has been sent to Ann Lee, and obviously the other 2 from the other 2 accounts. We have selected the clone enable option in the TP1 and no joint execution in this one. Let's go now to an external portal. I'm going to log in as Wu Li, okay? And just finish the task. Correspond, say no, and finish. So if we go to report, I can see now that AP1 has 2 tasks now. Okay, we can see one here and one here. As the current flow arrived twice. If I repeated what I have just done with another external user, AP1 will receive another task again. Let's go to the only external portal now and finish the task from here. Correspond now and finish. And go back to reports. And see what happens now. Okay. So as we can see, Anna Hill has several tasks now. This is because the TP1 is clone enable and the TP2 hasn't got joint execution. Let's go now to see other possibilities. So let's close all this. And let's go here and I'm going to select a family element now. I'm going to, AP1 and accounts. I'm going to choose IT consulting and Aura portal. Okay, type of user and save. So if I go to general settings now, I can select the clone disable option for the personal task 1 and I will leave the rest as it was. Save and exit, and let's start the process. If I go to my tasks now, I can see that I have received a task, okay, because I am AP1. Now I have received just one, as opposed to before that I received 3, okay? And this is because now it's clone disabled. So let's go back to the external portal and let's log in as Ann Lee. Okay, so it's here. So correspond now, and let's finish the task. So if I go back here, if I go to reports, I can see now, okay, how AP1 has this task and this task, but the current flow is not in the previous task anymore, okay? Before we have the current flow in both, now we just have it in this one. She has only one task. So let's close all this and start another process to try a last combination. So let's go to, first let's select this. Okay, so employee AP1 again. Account family. IT consulting and Aura portal. And let's save. And let's go to general settings. So in TP1, we're going to choose now clone disabled. Okay, and TP2, joint execution, no. And I'm going to change joint execution to yes, actually. So save and save and exit. So let's save and let's check the recipients. So the employees will be AP1 Anna Hill, and the external Wooly and Ann Lee. So let's start the process. And now we can go to reports. As we can see, AP1 has received the task. Remember that it's clone enabled, so let's go to the external portal to complete the task. Let's log in as Wooly. And just say correspond now and finish. And let's go back to reports. As we can see here, AP1 has received the task. We can see that AP1 doesn't get a new task and that the current flow and that is still there. The task is clone enabled, but until the external tasks are finished, as it has a joint execution, the current flow is not going to continue. So now we need to go to Ann Lee and finish the task. So now we can see that the current has continued. And this is because all the external users have finished the task, so the current flow has come back to the personal task. And this is how joint execution works. So this is the way joint and not joint execution and clone enable or disable work in execution. Okay, so clone enable or disable, when a task has more than one inlet, we can decide if we want it to reopen or to create one every time the current flow reaches the task. And joint or not joint execution, when a task is sent to several, we can choose the joint execution option if we want them all to complete the task before the current flow goes back to the task or not. And this shall be all for this video. Now it's your turn to do from part 7 to 13.